Welcome back to the STEM Career Accelerator. In this lesson, I want to talk about the 4 fears that are holding you back in your career. The first fear is the fear of being rejected. Now, we all know this because we all have negative past experiences where we've been rejected, or at least that we felt rejected, regardless of what the situation may have been in a more rational viewpoint. So we get anxious about this, that we're going to repeat or relive these negative past experiences. But this is so common, and the reason it's common is it's ingrained into our psychology. Humans will do more to avoid pain than to seek pleasure. This is a known fact. This has been researched, and anecdotally, I think that we can all look to this and see it in our own lives. But we have to remember, when we start to fear that there's going to be rejection coming, we have to remember that we're not alone, that everyone experiences this fear, and everyone also experiences rejection in one form or another. Remember that your feelings are valid, that you may feel like you've been rejected, and it is valid to feel that way because you do have negative past experiences. And remember that your concerns sometimes may be irrational. So it's okay to feel the way that you do, but take a step back from those feelings and look at the rationality of them. Does it make sense that you feel this way, that you feel rejected by whatever has happened? Remember that you can learn from every experience. Every experience that didn't go the way that you wanted it to go, if you learn from it, there is no such thing as rejection. It's only, I had an experience. I learned from it. I moved forward and applied the lessons. Remember that you have self-worth. This is one of the main reasons why we get anxious about reliving these negative past experiences, is that we don't have the self-worth that we really need. And this often comes down to the self-critic, that negative voice inside our minds that is telling us that we aren't good enough. And we need to shut down that negative self-critic. We also need to remember that most outcomes are not catastrophic. Most outcomes are not going to end your job, end your career. Most outcomes aren't even going to ruin your day. And also remember that regardless of how catastrophic an outcome is, we need to remain in our growth mindset, our abundance mindset. And when we're focused in that area, we're focused on the positive things. We're focused on the positive outcomes, not on the worst case scenario outcomes. So try to engender those thoughts of optimism and try to push away or at least understand the origin of the pessimism. Number 2 is the fear of not being enough. And I mean not being good enough, not being smart enough, not being experienced enough or skilled enough. And this can lead to us feeling like we're an imposter in our jobs and our career. So the fear of not being enough is real. Everyone experiences it from time to time. And the danger is that it makes us feel like we don't even belong in our job, in our role, or in our career. The third fear is the fear of criticism. Now, nobody wants to be unfairly criticized. And the truth is that some criticism is truly unfair, that someone is criticizing you with the intention of causing you to have negative feelings, to making you feel less like a human, less like a person. And you need to be aware of these toxic people. Have an awareness that toxic people exist and that sometimes you feel the way you do because they've intended you to feel negative. On the other hand, sometimes we just feel negative because nobody wants to be criticized. Nobody likes that feeling of, oh, I could have done it better. I wish I had done it better. But remember that criticism is an opportunity for growth, and that pain is part of growing. But joy is also part of the growth process. So let's remain focused on the positive parts of growing and know and acknowledge that we will experience pain in the process too. But remember, this all presents us with opportunity. Number 4 is the fear of failure. The truth is that you can only fail if you don't start, if you don't make any effort, and if you completely quit. But as long as you keep going, as long as you made some effort in the beginning, and as long as you actually started what you intend to finish, you cannot fail. But you can make mistakes. Mistakes do happen. But again, mistakes are an opportunity to learn. So take the opportunity to learn. So when this fear of failure comes up, remember that there is an opportunity ahead of you, and you need to identify that opportunity and focus on the opportunity to succeed, not on what you wish to avoid, which is so-called failure or avoiding the mistakes. And when you try to avoid mistakes continuously, you get so anxious that you start to fear failure. So focus on the opportunities and what they will present to you as success, and that you will be able to celebrate those successes and that you will feel joyful in that success. Here's some more tools for overcoming your fears. Identify your fear. This mindfulness is so important. Always being mindful, always being intentional. That's a big part of what this Career Accelerator is all about. So first, name that fear, and then acknowledge your fear. Acknowledge that you feel this way. Acknowledge the reality of it and the irrationality of it. And get to the core of that fear. When you get to the core of the fear, you start to really be able to parse it apart. And you want to get deeper as you get into the core. You want to do something called defining the nightmare. And that's where you look at the worst case scenario for the worst pain, the worst ultimate outcome that could happen. Think about what the lasting impact would be and how severe this impact is. And then rate those on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most severe, the most lasting impact. And then also think about how likely are these outcomes. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being never going to happen and 10 being it's completely certain it's going to happen this way. This can help you get to the core of your fear. And also accept that the fear is just a signal for you to get prepared for something, to get ready to tackle it. And so think about, even if there are negative outcomes, will they last forever? Can you make repairs and improvements if negative outcomes arise? And then think about, what are the most probable scenarios and what are their outcomes? Are any of these outcomes ones that can be satisficed? So instead of looking at the maximal or optimal outcome being a maximizer, can you be a satisficer and be satisfied that one of these outcomes is sufficient? And then you can get confident about what you do, because you're going to make a plan and you're going to write it down, and you can use just a blank sheet of paper, draw 3 columns on it. In the first column, write, what is my fear? What are the most likely outcomes, the impact, the severity, and how permanent it will be? In the second column, what can I do to prevent the outcomes or reduce their severity and impact? Because, you can't control the future, so you need to think about, okay, well, I would like for this outcome to happen. I can try to prevent this outcome, but knowing full well that things may not go the way you want, mistakes will happen, and how are you going to learn from it? And then how are you going to reduce the severity and impact? And the third column, write, how can I recover, repair, and improve things that don't go the way that I want them to go? And bonus, beneath those 3 columns, I want you to write, how are you going to celebrate when you finally have a satisfactory outcome? In this process, it's important that you align your plan with your growth mindset. Think about the abundance that the positive outcomes will give you. Think about celebrating these successes. Think about who you will be grateful to and how you will show your gratitude. Think about who will be grateful to you for going through this process and for overcoming your fear. and for getting the task at hand done or accomplishing the goal that you set out. And then I want you to get excited because you're now ready to take action. And in taking action, you can address your fears. Here's another tool. If we think about our effort through time, we could graph it out. And that graph in the positive space is actions, and in the negative space are setbacks. But overall, progress is going as a linear growth, or sometimes it's going as an exponential growth, depending on where we are in the time frame. And if we look at progress in relation to our effort, and that setbacks are part of the process of taking action, then we can start to think about it as a continuous improvement model. And continuous improvement supports our growth mindset and reduces our fear. I'll see you in the next session.